Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Wednesday, February 28th, presented by Boston Hemp Inc. Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, ready to break down the Wednesday cards. Light card as usual for a Wednesday with 2 games on tap, but we'll break those down in a moment. First off, thank you to everyone for joining us on the Betcast last night, whether you were on the stream or in the chat participating on YouTube in the chat. It was a fun Betcast as usual. It was really a crazy up and down night. It was a little bit of a negative night for me overall. Pre-game bets definitely did not go like I hoped, and icing on the cake with that was the Canuck team total falling short with their loss to Pittsburgh last night. But I will say the live bets definitely minimized the damage for me last night and actually helped out pull us closer to break even. The live bets ended up going pretty well. You look back at Washington and Detroit. We went with the second period over and both teams to score in that game. We mentioned the strong trends. Same thing, Vegas-Toronto, third period over in that game, as well as both teams to score. And the second period, we had a double helping of Vegas-Toronto, both teams to score, and the over second and third period of that game. And both of them cashed. So that was good to see. We did fall short with that Arizona shot to come back against Montreal. We took a small shot with Buffalo, Florida draw. That ended up falling short, but the totals were really good last night. Dallas, Colorado, I think that was the highlight for me because the entire community got in on the second period over, which cashed with relative ease. 18 straight games now for the Dallas Stars have gone over the total in the second period. So it was that was great, and everyone was on that. And even in the late night hours, we saw, Pittsburgh, Vancouver, an entertaining finish, although like I said, I was hoping that game would have one more goal for Vancouver. And then, of course, in the late night hours, while it was a debacle for my San Jose and draw bets in that game, the live bets ended up going well. We had second period over in that game. We also had third period over and both teams to score against or for that Devils and Sharks game. So, the live bets actually were very good, especially the totals, the live totals and the live BTTS bets. They were all quite strong last night. And overall, it was a lot of fun as always. Great company, great camaraderie with all of our viewers and listeners. And Alex, that's why we do the Betcast. It's, yes, to make money, and to make profit and try to turn these live wagers into live profits. But at the end of the day, it's also about the company you keep. And we always keep some really great fucking company with our viewers and listeners on these Betcasts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was a wonderful time. Like I said, every Betcast so far this season has been fantastic as far as except the company and the camaraderie and the chatter and discussions have been wonderful. And here's the thing about live betting. It can, maximize a day into a wonderful day if you're having some solid bets hitting in pregame. But if you're having a bad day with your pregame bets, it can salvage a night. And like you said, for Ian and I, it minimized the risks and losses, substantially. And that's the beauty of live betting. It's not always just about adding more on. It's sometimes just picking spots and finding ways to minimize losses that you might be incurring throughout the evening. And that's the process we kind of had yesterday. So I hate that happened. Obviously, we want everything to be, just lights out at all times. But it's important to have nights like that on record to show people when we're talking about live betting, because keep in mind, the space is ever growing. Okay. We're always getting new viewers. We're always getting new bettors year after year. So to have this kind of reference, and I think about this with all of our Betcasts, having these frames of reference to use and look back upon when we're doing our live betting. So we realize, hey, there's going to be these nights like this where, we're trying to kind of cut our losses here with live wagering on the night where we want to, pick our spots and try to add on and add more and win more on a night and add to the bankroll. So I'm glad to have these on record. And like I said, with wonderful company and all of our Ice Guys family around, it always makes for a good time.
Yeah, no doubt. And it was. And it was a great turnout last night. We got close to capacity on the stream in terms of a number of people we could have in there at any given moment. We saw a couple of people we hadn't seen in quite some time. Melissa Cunningham, good to see her join us for a little bit last night for sure. We had some new faces. JF in the chat, he was there for almost the whole thing, and he was keeping us up to date clearly on the games he was watching all throughout the night. He was a great addition to the betcast. I think our first time for him. Like I say, we got to see our old friend Goose again. It was a good turnout last night. There's no question. And my old buddy at Pub Sports Radio, Connor Mack, man, I've missed him. Like there's been times we haven't gone a couple days without seeing each other and talking and doing shows, or at the very most a week in between shows with CMAC over on Pub Sports Radio. But they've been cutting back a little bit as far as shows are concerned and content, just going with less is more type of mentality. So we haven't been doing as many shows on that platform. But to bring Connor Mack back in on the betcast last night, it was good. And speaking of Connor Mack, we've got obviously a nice little array of regular reoccurring people joining me and Alex on this show. We've got Brett on Mondays, we've got Matt on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we have Zach on Saturdays. Well, most Sundays moving forward, or at least whenever he can, we're going to get Connor Mack in the mix on Sunday. On the Ice Guys show, because he offered it. He said, if you need a guest Sunday, let me know. And it's 9 a.m. for him locally there in Las Vegas. So Connor Mack this Sunday for sure. He will be joining us 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So Connor Mack on the Ice Guys show. And this will make up for the fact that we haven't done as much content together for a while since the college football season ended, because we do the Hitting the Books show every Monday throughout the college football season. But yeah, C-Mac's excellent, very good bettor as well, very astute. And he's like me, covers everything, like football, hockey. He's a big hockey guy as well. And that's the thing. He does not get to talk hockey very much because Pub doesn't do much with hockey, but he gets to talk hockey on this show. So it'll be fun to have our guy C-Mac in the house on Sunday.
Yeah, that's awesome. Looking forward to that. That'll be a good time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So C-Mac on Sunday. Let's look back on yesterday's games. Just go through them as far as because we talked about the betcast and how much we enjoyed it. But the games themselves, look, it could have been better, definitely from a pregame betting standpoint. But the one thing that was good about last night was Detroit team total, easy peasy. An 8-3 beatdown over the Washington Capitals last night. It was great to see that. I was on the Red Wings team total there. DeBrincat ends up getting a goal, and Patrick Kane does get over 1.5 up. Or did he get one over one? No, he only had the one
over
assist.
One. He got 2 assists, but no goal. The goal was disallowed and it came back. Yeah.
That's right. So that close. We had the assist and we had over 1.5 points, but we also had the goal prop. The goal prop's the one that fell short. But yeah, we talk about how red hot both of them have been. They contributed. We saw, Gostisbehere with not 1 but 2 goals last night. Larkin got a goal and a multi-point game. David Perron had a couple of assists. This is a really good offensive hockey team. I think we can now say that about the Detroit Red Wings. The question is going to be, is their goaltending and their D going to hold up enough the rest of the regular season and playoffs if they get in? And I'll say it right now, Alex, they look like a playoff team to me right now, the Detroit Red Wings. To me, it would be a little bit of a surprise if for some reason they stumble down the stretch and miss out.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all the other teams in the East that are fighting for those 2 wild card spots, they seem to be the best. So it's the best of the worst kind of thing, the way I look at it. I don't think they do much once they get into the playoffs, but yeah, they look like they could be a team that should be able to hold on to at least one of those 2 final spots to get into the postseason.
Yeah, Perlo and Rico, shout out to them in the chat. They were on the betcast last night. We appreciate their contributions and appearance as well. The Buffalo Sabres, they fall short to Florida 3-2. The Panthers hang on for a victory in that game, although the headline grabber once again was Nick Cousins, and NHL public enemy number 1, NHL rat number 1 right now, doing his best little soccer embellishment imitation and then springing back to life like the Undertaker coming out of the casket and getting involved in the scrum. I mean, look, we know players on the other team hate this guy's guts right now and all the shit that he's doing on the ice and all these antics. I think even his own teammates are starting to get a little tired of it. And if I'm like Kachuk or I'm Montour or I'm Ekblad or I'm one of the leaders on the team, I'm starting to say to myself, hey, we got to pull this guy over and say, cut it out with the antics, because it sure as hell ain't helping us.
Yeah, absolutely. Me personally, and I said it on the stream last night, I'd love to see somebody just feed him his fucking lunch, because he deserves it at this point. All the shit we've seen from him. It's just 3 or 4 incidents now, in the last 2 to 3 months, going back to that whole fight thing with Arizona, and it's ridiculous. And this is what we talk about it all the time about fighting in hockey and the instigator rule and all that stuff. And these are the kind of assholes that have, been able to gain advantage from how the rules are set and how the league wants to play things. Like I said, you let a bunch of guys that cheap shot, a lot of guys who like sit slew foot, a lot of guys do a lot of dirty shit, and then they don't get to answer the bell for it. And so, I look at players like this. I don't blame the players, completely. I mean, yes, it is on them at the end of the day to do this. Right from wrong as a hockey player, but I also blame the league because the league has allowed players to get away with things like this for quite some time. We haven't seen that many players take advantage of it, thankfully, but there have been some. And Nick Cousins, we can add his name to that list.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's getting a little out carried away now with all the incidents that have taken place. No, Po Buddy's perfect. Look, Nick Cousins apparently, from all indications, away from the rink, is a great guy, really nice, good friend, that kind of
Right.
thing. And I don't doubt that for a second. But he's an on the ice asshole. That's what he
Yeah.
is. Like, and it's like he basically puts on a cape, and he's a totally different persona when he gets out there on the ice for an NHL game. And it's that persona that you got to tone it down a little bit and weed this out because like I said, it's getting carried away with all the shit Nick Cousins has been doing on the ice antics wise here the last really all season, but especially the last couple of months. Very disappointing for me with Arizona because we had the over push, the best bet. But we had Arizona. We thought this was a great spot to snap the losing streak. The worst team, the weakest team they've played. They did have a murderer's row schedule. We talked about they played Carolina twice, Edmonton, Toronto. I mean, it's just one great team after another they've played. That contributed to the losing streak, but an opportunity is stepping down in class. And to be honest, they probably should have won that game. They were out playing Montreal, heavily outshot them, outchanced them. Montembeault was outstanding, just could not finish. And that's all that matters in the end. You can outchance, outshoot a team. All that matters is what you do in terms of converting those chances. And Arizona did not do enough of that in a 4-2 loss to the Montreal Canadiens. Philadelphia, there was a power outage actually in the building last night in Philadelphia during that game, but there was no power outage for the Philadelphia Flyers. There was a power outage for Tampa Bay. 6-2 for the Flyers, a huge third period, and really a totally brutal third period for Andrei Vasilevskiy. If you actually look at the highlights, and I had this game on in the third a little bit, a couple of those goals were just that. Vasilevskiy let that in. Are you kidding me? Look, that's we've talked about for Vasilevskiy, and his save percentage is hovering right around 900, and that is very atypical of Andrei Vasilevskiy. Yeah. And his third period was nothing to write home about at all. The Flyers with a 5-1 trouncing of Tampa Bay in the third period, and they end up winning that game by a score of 6-2. Flyers snap their 2-game losing streak. And what we said about Tampa Bay was accurate. They had 1-2 in a row, but they're still a weak road team. People were getting excited, but they beat an Islanders team that has no consistency at all, and a New Jersey team that we don't think is very good at the moment. Let's see what they do here against a focused Philly team looking to snap the skid. And sure enough, Philly was too much for them, and they gets the 6-2 win over the Lightning. Vegas, Toronto, a brutal spot. The question would be, would they be able to overcome it and keep the win streak going? The answer, no. Vegas with a 6-2 victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs. But the highlight of this game, and it's one of the highlights of the night for sure, Tyler Bertuzzi with our bargain bin special as he scores once again for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And like I said, a big reason why he was my bargain bin choice yesterday on the show is because you're not going to get him plus 320 to score a goal for much longer, if he continues to produce at this clip that we have seen from him the last few games. So great to cash the bargain bin special there with Tyler Bertuzzi, but the Vegas Golden Knights get the last laugh and redemption for getting bombed by Toronto in T-Mobile Arena last week. A nice 6-2 win on the road there for the Vegas Golden Knights. We're not panicking about Toronto. Still a team that's played great hockey for the better part of the week. This is all about how do you respond now against the Arizona Coyotes, because it's a team that's now lost 13 straight. They played well enough to win last night, but let's be real, that was against Montreal. You're better than Montreal if you're Toronto. This is the time where, don't let this linger and fester into a second mediocre game, and don't let it linger into a third mediocre game when the Rangers come to town on Saturday night. Take care of business Thursday against a team you should beat, and no one's going to be all that concerned about what we saw last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, going back to kind of touch on that Arizona Montreal game, and we should have kind of known. It's funny, John Massey kind of tried us on a little bit about it in the stream, but yeah, we should have known to not really trust these two really bad teams this time of year. We're starting to see the bottom drop out with some of these teams where we look at prices, we look at situations, but at the end of the day, we have to realize they are bottom 10 teams, and we have to approach them as such, where things are going to be a lot more unstable. And so, with that game in Arizona, now you look at, of course, the historical spot of taking on Toronto. You mix that in with how Toronto, played in that last game against Vegas, and how they've been playing leading up into that contest. It definitely lines up for a good spot where the Maple Leafs could make a huge statement in that game. But like you said, they have to kind of, for their own sake, throw away what happened in that Vegas game and to say, hey, like, let's get back on track. We know what we can do. That's not, that's one of those kind of games on a Tuesday night where we end up losing and not playing that well, but we can bounce back from that. That's where we'll see the growth. We've talked about the streak and the offense, and we've seen all these different things that have looked good for Toronto moving forward. But this is something that I think all of us need to see. If this team's really going to take that step forward, we keep talking about, all right, bounce back and beat one of the worst teams in the league after having a bad home loss against a good team in Vegas. That's where you show that you're a legitimate contender in the East. So that's going to be definitely a game to highlight and watch. And you mentioned about the Philly and Tampa game. We might as well call Tampa Bay the Tampa Bay rain, because there's no lightning, there's no thunder, there's no wind, there's no tornadoes, there's nothing like that. It's just straight fucking rain, just a whole lot of wet. That's pretty much what you're getting from Tampa Bay right now. This team looks old, they look slow. Vasilevsky clearly is not the same goaltender he once was off of the back surgery. Okay, he had his flashes of brilliance, but now we're seeing this inconsistency now since he's been back. Okay, this is a man who has been nothing but a model of one of the best goaltenders in the league, and we've never really seen this kind of just complete up and down play from him. So it's something to be concerned about moving forward, obviously. And once he gets this year off and has a full off season where he doesn't have to have surgery, doesn't have to play a whole lot of games into the postseason, we could see him return to that form. But until that time, Vasilevsky right now is not a top 5 goalie in my eyes. He's a top 10 goalie, maybe even a top 15 goalie. He has taken a step back in my book and overview, and that hurts the chances of Tampa Bay as a whole. And that's why I feel really comfortable, even more comfortable now than I did the day I bet it. But I think Tampa Bay, they're going to be one of those teams that finds themselves out, and they won't be in the postseason this year.
Yeah, and look, they're hanging on for dear life right now. There is no question they are not safe by any stretch of the imagination. And like I said about Vasilevsky, 2.99 goals against average, which is not horrible, but it is way below what we've seen from that. But more alarming, Alex, is this is a guy in the past. I'm looking at his previous numbers in past seasons. I've seen save percentages of 915, 916, 925, 917, 925, 920. Lowest save percentage for Vasilevsky prior to this season was 916. He's at 896 right now with his save percentage this season. Not the same guy. Not the same guy at the moment.
No.
Not saying he can't get it back, but right now that ain't Andre Vasilevsky we've seen for a decade. It's just not.
Absolutely.
Just not. All right. What else did we see last night as we continue along here? Nashville. I mean, this was disheartening for me with Ottawa. Right? They had the loss against Washington. And it was very unfortunate. They just didn't play well in their own end. And then they get Nashville off the road trip. Usually that's a good spot. It's a spot that Toronto lost in last night, the long road trip back home. Nashville was in that spot, and Ottawa was just not good enough to take advantage of it. They fell behind early, really couldn't get their way back. 4-1 Nashville in that game. And now Ottawa, all of a sudden, this great little surge they had going, and then wham, it's 2 straight losses in a row against the Predators and the Capitals. So not what you want to see here from Ottawa here after a nice little run they put together. Winnipeg with a, a 4-2 win over St. Louis. It was a pretty solid victory for the Jets. Played well on home ice, definitely. And look, Laurent Brossoit, he's a capable goalie, and he outplayed Hofer in the battle of the backups last night. But the Jets with a nice 4-2 win against the St. Louis Blues. They're a very erratic, up-and-down team. They were at least a little bit better last night than they were against Detroit, but that's not saying much. They were awful against the Red Wings and still not good enough to win last night against Winnipeg, and now they got to face the Edmonton Oilers on the road in a back-to-back here tonight, which we will get to in just a bit. Calgary 4-2 against LA. This has been a great run for the Flames. At home against quality foes, Winnipeg, Boston, Edmonton, although Edmonton actually was on the road, and then back home against LA, another win for the Flames last night. Great to see a 4-2 victory against the Kings. So Calgary continues to keep themselves very much in the mix as far as the wild card, and this is going to prompt Craig Conroy to have to make some very tough decisions, what he's going to do. He's been, the thought all along was we're going to probably deal Hanifin, Tanev, and maybe even Markstrom before the deadline. I don't think Markstrom's happening now. I think they're going to keep him. But Tanev will be gone. I do still think they're going to move Tanev before the deadline. And Dallas, we're hearing, is the team that's really hottest on the heels of maybe landing Chris Tanev. And then, of course, the question mark then becomes as well, Noah Hanifin. Do you move him, a UFA, of course, in the offseason? So very interesting to see how that plays out, especially with Calgary now still very much in the mix. And, the players don't want to see any of their teammates traded. They're trying to make the playoffs, and they've talked about it. But it's a business, and it's still Calgary's got to think of the long term. And if Calgary gets in the playoffs, you still worry about whether they'll even win a round. We're talking about a murderer's row in the Western Conference. You're going to be up against an Edmonton and a Vegas and LA, a Colorado, a Dallas in the first round. That's going to be tough sledding if you're the Calgary Flames. Yeah. All this work to get into the playoffs and at risk of not even getting out of the first round. So you still have to have the long-term vision in mind if you're Craig Conroy, the Flames GM, and I think he definitely does. Colorado with a 5-1 win against Dallas last night. It was a brutal scheduling spot for the schedule makers. Just put Dallas in a really tough spot. Now, they could have played better. They probably should have played better, but still, Colorado was rested, pretty focused, angry after Toronto came in there and beat them on Saturday, and it was a great dominant effort, really, from the Colorado Avalanche. And then they shut Dallas down when they had the big lead, which is unfortunate because I did have the over. But we did get the first period over, the first period both teams to score, and the second period over, which all of us pretty much jumped in on during the betcast. I got to give the Penguins credit. 4-3 against Vancouver to come back. That's one of the best wins they've had in a very long time against a good Canucks team on the road, down 2-0 after the first period. They come back and they win 4-3. Hell, even their power play, at least at 5-on-3, did some damage last night. They tied it in the third, and then they were opportunistic in overtime. And a player that hasn't had the season they were hoping for comes through, though, with the overtime winner, Erik Karlsson, for the Pittsburgh Penguins to win that game 4-3. Raquel had a great night with 2 goals as well. And the Penguins, look, they've won 3 in a row, and this is probably the best team they've beaten during this 3-game win streak, but they can't be satisfied. You've still got a lot of work to do if you even want to think about making a push to the playoffs. So you got to keep winning. That's your mindset if you're Pittsburgh. And then the Devils and Sharks, look, San Jose in the draw looked good in the first period, 1-0. Mackenzie Blackwood with 13 saves, not allowing a goal. And then suddenly we hear at the intermission, or at the end of the period, he gets hurt. Kaapo Kakanen's got to take over, and basically San Jose unraveled, from that point on. And, once Kakkonen gave up those, so 2 of those goals were just so brutal for him to give up, and it turned into 2-1 quickly for the Devils. He kind of worried that the game might get away from the Sharks, and a team lacking confidence like the Devils finally had all kinds of momentum from that. And sure enough, look, New Jersey just pulled away from that point. San Jose was really deflated after that Blackwood injury. And that was a big part of the handicap, too. The Blackwood's going to really want to beat New Jersey, a team that traded him away. But once he was out of the game, it totally changed things, and New Jersey ends up romping. And we remarked about it on the betcast last night while that game was taking place. It's New Jersey's night when Kevin Ball, Colin Miller, and Brendan Smith, 3 pluggers on the blue line, score goals for them last night. So that really tells you all you need to know about how good of a night it was for New Jersey and how things completely fell apart in that game for the San Jose Sharks. Alex, thoughts on, and Carolina, Minnesota. I forgot about that game. 3-2 Carolina. So close for us with the Wild and the draw, and it turned into the worst result possible. Carolina in regulation. And I'm gonna toot the horn again. Pyotr Kochetkov, outstanding. 28 saves on 30 shots. You could argue Minnesota even had slight edge of play in that game last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. It was 30-28 in shots, 28 saves on 30 Minnesota shots for Pyotr Kochetkov. Don't look now, but since February 8th, in his last 7 starts, Pyotr Kochetkov has given up 2 goals or less in 6 of those 7 starts. There's a reason Alex and I are, screaming from the rooftops here about this kid and Pyotr Kochetkov, and make him the number 1 guy in Carolina and give him his starts. And he's the future in net. And I love his moxie. I love his passion. I love that he has a competitive spirit to him, and he's an intense competitor. He's willing to mix it up too, getting scrums, getting fights, do all that kind of stuff too from the goaltending spot. Help out his teammates at the end of a scrum there at the end of the Florida-Carolina game recently. So he's a team guy. That's another thing you love about him. So we can't say enough praise about this kid. We think he's a good one. We think he's a great teammate as well. I love that he's got that edge to him as well. And he was great last night preserving a Carolina win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can't say enough about Pyotr Kochetkov. He's been fantastic for the team. And if Carolina is going to do anything in the postseason, it has to be with him at the forefront between the pipes. And you can't deal with, any of the old broken cars you got in the garage with Ranta and Anderson. You got to ride with Kochetkov. But I want to talk back about that Calgary thing. And this is one of those things where, as a fan, it really sucks, because you want to see your team play well and win and get to the playoffs. But you have to realize that getting into the playoffs means nothing if you just bounce out in 4 or 5 games and then you put your team in the jackpot moving forward. Calgary is going to have to make moves, maybe not so much with Markstrom, but definitely Hannafin and Tanev. You got to move them now and try to get some things back and solidify some stuff for the future. And Markstrom's a guy that you can either decide to roll with, or you could move in the offseason, maybe move during the draft and get a ton of things back for him in return. So I think Calgary needs to look toward the future. I know Flames fans don't want to hear that, but you got to face facts. Like I said, getting into the playoffs and getting swept out by Dallas or Colorado or Vegas or Vancouver, I mean, what's the joy in that? And now you got these guys that are just going to walk, for nothing, and you could have gotten draft picks or players or prospects for them. So, hopefully the GMs and the front office realize that they don't buy into the fan hype, because some teams, we've seen this happen. Some offices buy into the fan hype and see the momentum. They see the ticket sales increasing and want to try to make that playoff run, and then realize, okay, we only had 2 home playoff games and we got our ass kicked, and now we're not in any good position moving forward. So Calgary, do the right thing, make the moves you need for the future.
I agree with that. Well said. And I think there's definitely a chance that Calgary will do the right thing. And that's right. They've still got to look toward the future. Yes, our guy Goose is right. Let's hit that like button. 42 likes. Yeah, like it up there. Hit that like button. Yes. We appreciate it very much. 150 people on a very short Wednesday card as well. So we appreciate everyone tuning in right here for this Wednesday slate. We got 2 games, and we'll get into them right now and begin in Broadway, Madison Square Garden, the Big Apple, Columbus Blue Jackets, New York Rangers, the back end of a home-and-home series between these 2 teams. We've got the Rangers minus 250, home favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. The Rangers, of course, losing in Columbus on Sunday, having their streak snapped in the process, double-digit win streak coming to an end with that 4-2 defeat at the hands of the Blue Jackets at Nationwide Arena on Sunday. Now the rematch taking place here in New York. It is worth noting, though, this is a Jackets team that we have seen them push this, New York Rangers team in the past. They had won back-to-back now in Columbus. Last year, they met, or actually back in November this year, I should say, they met in New York, and it was a 4-3 shootout victory for the New York Rangers. So, Columbus has always been a tough out for some reason. That's going to happen, where even the better teams have an inferior team that they always play, where that team is always a tough team to beat for them, for some reason. And Columbus has kind of been that team lately for the New York Rangers. This is interesting because usually, Alex, and I've talked about the bubble burst theory with these teams on these long win streaks, the streak gets snapped. I'm not usually rushing to back them after the long streak gets snapped. And I'm not sure I'm rushing to do that here, but I will say this. Merzlikins in net for Columbus. We should see Igor Shesterkin in net for the New York Rangers. The Rangers have won 5 straight home games at Madison Square Garden coming into this one. And Igor Shesterkin, is coming into this game on a 6-game win streak as a starting goalie, 6-0 in his last 6 starts, and he has given up exactly 1 goal in each of his last 3 starts. The Dallas win, where he was spectacular. He stole 2 points for the New York Rangers against the Stars that night. He was rock solid against New Jersey, 5-1 after that. And then, of course, against the Philadelphia Flyers, 1 goal allowed on 40 Flyer shots, and the Flyers were buzzing on Saturday afternoon when they were down 2-1. But the Igor Shesterkin held the fort and kept the Rangers ahead and victorious. And keep in mind, the 4-2 loss was John Quick that night in net. And obviously, they gave Shesterkin a rest on a back-to-back situation. So I'm going to take the Rangers' first period puck line here. Okay, that's the angle I'm going to go with. I don't know about the full game. Minus 250, regulation's not appealing at all at the price we're seeing right now. Even the team total, I'm not necessarily sold on that because I could see this being kind of a 3-2, 3-1. Not necessarily for sure the Rangers getting to 4 goals. Not to mention at some books, we've got the price as high as minus 145, minus 150 on the over 3.5 with the New York Rangers. So, but I do think first 20 minutes coming off losing to this very Blue Jackets team on Sunday, you'll get a good start to the game from the Rangers. And obviously that's the best value on the board because unlike laying numbers with, the regulation, not even the full game puck line I'm enamored with either. I lean to full game puck line, but I just think in this spot, the first period puck line is probably the better option in my opinion. So minus a half at around plus 128, plus 130 is what we are seeing here. That's right now the only pregame bet I got here. What do you think, Alex? Blue Jackets, Rangers.
Yeah, the only thing that I like here is the first period over, and it's mostly predicated, like I said, with the Rangers coming back home, playing against the Blue Jacket team that's giving them fits. And I could see where there's just energy and goals going both ways early in this contest. But it also would set up for looking at maybe a live under. We didn't get any spots in the betcast last night, but I'll be looking at this a bit more actively. If we get this first period over, which is 1.5, and as high as minus $1.40. So this is one where I'll play maybe a half unit pregame and look for something a little cheaper, hopefully plus money in game. If we can cash that, I'll be looking for something under 8.5, maybe laying $1.30, $1.35 full game, because I think we could see the pace early, and then I could think we could see some things slow down, especially if the Rangers can jump out and get an early second period lead. I think they can score maybe 1 or 2 goals, and it's a 3-1 game, and then they can really sit on that lead and kind of slow it down. So that's the approach I'm taking. First period over pregame, a little bit pregame, adding a little bit more in game, and then hoping for a live under during the contest.
Yeah, that's definitely something. I could see it being that where you see some goals early and then maybe slow down a little bit after that. As far as props go, I mean, I'm pretty repetitive when it comes to both of these teams. I keep saying with Kakko on the top line, there's value, but there's only value if he actually scores, and we don't always see that consistently from him. He's been up there now for a couple games. He doesn't even have a point playing with Kreider and Zibanejad, Kakko. So, but there is value because he's up there on the top line. Lafreniere with Trocheck and Panarin's been a good line for them lately. Finally, VC's down to the third line because he didn't do squat up there either with the Kreider and Zibanejad when he was there. So those are some props, mostly maybe Kakko and maybe Lafreniere. And then for Columbus, I say stick to, Roslovic too. Roslovic on the top line with Jenner and Johnny Gaudreau. There's definitely some Jack Roslovic player prop value right now for the Blue Jackets. And he did score against the Rangers. In fact, he had a 2-point night on Sunday versus the New York Rangers. And again, Jack Roslovic is getting, first line minutes right now for the Jackets. And the other 3 that I would consider it's the easy choice. It's the 3 Russians. It's Shchenikov, it's Voronkov, and it's Marchenko. And it's especially Voronkov right now. Like he's the prop of the 3 Russians, that Russian line for the Columbus Blue Jackets, which has been very good. Voronkov's the one that's on the heater right now. Back-to-back games with a goal, 3 points in the last 2 games for Dmitry Voronkov as well. We know Shchenikov's had a nice season, 15 goals, 13 assists. Those 2 in particular, there's always great value with them. But like I say, as far as the props here, Shchenikov, or not Shchenikov, Voronkov for Columbus, I would say probably Kakko. And you just hope Kakko gets going here at some point playing with Kreider and Zibanejad. This is a guy that was drafted as high as he was for his finishing prowess, which hasn't always been evident here with the New York Rangers. But he's going to have the opportunity. He's going to have the opportunity with Kreider and Zibanejad. You can't argue with getting a plus 370 price at FanDuel on Kakko, given his spot in the lineup. You just hope he makes good on it finally. All right, the second game and final game of this short card, St. Louis Blues, Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton minus 290, home favorites here, 6.5 the total. Pretty tough spot here for the Blues. You're on a back-to-back after losing last night against the Winnipeg Jets. Not an easy situation. Rest advantage for Edmonton. They snapped the losing streak with the win against LA. It was a great third period from Stuart Skinner. In that, Stuart Skinner was very strong, I thought, in that game against LA, especially in the third period. But can he sustain it? Can he continue to build off that here tonight against St. Louis? He is back in net for the Oilers. For St. Louis, it's Jordan Binnington who will get the nod. Not a surprise there, considering this is obviously back-to-back, and we saw Joe Hofer against Winnipeg last night for the St. Louis Blues. You look at the recent meeting these teams played each other. It was 6-3, actually, in favor of St. Louis the last two times these teams played. So it was a nice Blues victory there against the Oilers back on February 15th, 13 days ago. Not to mention earlier this year, St. Louis won in a shootout in Edmonton, December 15th by a score of 4-3. So Blues have actually won each of the last two meetings. I don't feel comfortable with Edmonton in this price range, but I do get the sense I think they will win this game, quite honestly. They have the schedule in their favor. They're looking to build off the win against LA the other night, but I'm just not comfortable in taking them at minus 290. This is my totals game of the night for sure when I look at it. If you look at the Oilers, suddenly, Alex, they're piling up the first period overs again.
Yeah.
6-2 to the first period over for the Edmonton Oilers in their last 8 games. You know, we saw the first period over easily the last time these two teams played head-to-head. I think it was 2-1 after the opening period. So this is my over trifecta tonight. First period over, first period both teams to score, and full game over 6.5 in this game. And I'm going to add on a couple of things too, because obviously no betcast tonight. But from a live betting standpoint, you got to point this out. Everyone should be used to the procedure now. I've said it a bunch of times now, especially on the betcast last night. But we've got strong second period and third period over trends in this game and for the Edmonton Oilers right now. Edmonton is 9-1 to the second period over 1.5 in their last 10. They are 14-1 to the third period over 1.5 in their last 15. So what I will be doing in this game here, not only the first period over, first period both teams to score and full game over, but we will also be looking at the over 2 in the second period and the third period, pre-period, both teams to score in both of those periods as well. And then we'll add on the over 1.5 during the period when we can find minus 120 or better. That's been the standard operating procedure for yours truly with these period trend bets to the over, because we know we don't get over 1.5 anymore pre-period at any sort of reasonable price. What you got to do is you got to sprinkle on a little over 2 and both teams to score in pocket before the period, and then you wait for that minus 120 or better during the period on over 1.5, and that's when you strike. That's when you fire, and you put more on that. So that's been the approach, and that's what we'll be looking for. Not only the second period, but the third period of this game here tonight. Alex, what do you think here? Blues, Oilers.
And just to mention, so if you're looking for those both teams to score, I'm just giving you a FanDuel's rundown. You can get first period plus 168. Second period plus 116 and third period plus 128. You can get all those pregame over at FanDuel, and there's other books that offer those as well. So shop around. I, for one, will definitely have all three of those both teams to scores in some fashion. I'll have it stronger on the first and second periods, but I will have a little bit pregame smaller on the third. I also do like first period over, full game overs, but I'll be grabbing those live. So I'm going with the over trifecta, adding second period, both teams to score pregame, looking for the first period and full game overs live. I'm looking for just cheaper prices, same numbers, just trying to get a little bit better of pricing. And there's a player prop that I also like in this contest as well. I'll talk about it in a minute.
All right, yeah, for the bargain bin special segment, absolutely. So yeah, like I say, and we've not only have we got all the period trends, first period over, are pretty strong, but they're not even as strong as the second and the third period over, especially for Edmonton. Like if you combine Edmonton games right now, second period over 1.5 and third period over 1.5 combined for Edmonton Oilers games, You combine the two, and we're talking 23-2. 23-2. All right. Second period and third period over for the Edmonton Oilers run streak. 23-2. Pretty impressive. So that's why we're interested in these second and third period overlooks here when it comes to the St. Louis Edmonton game tonight. And definitely prop game from a prop standpoint. There's a good prop game, in my opinion. There's a lot of good options. You got to bet Pavel Buchnevich right now. He's not bargain bin material at the moment, but you're still getting a pretty good price, even if it is short of bargain bin criteria for a guy that's really streaking and surging right now. Scored again last night, plus 240. No doubt that's a good look there as far as the Blues are concerned with the way he's been scoring lately for them. I always mention Jordan Kyrou. Jake, won't you be my neighbor? Jake Neighbors, of course. And don't sleep on Zach Bolduc either. Zach Bolduc just got called up. He scored against Detroit. He didn't have a shot on goal last night, but he's still on the second line. And there's still tremendous value right now for Zachary Bolduc for the St. Louis Blues. And again, plus 600 to score a goal in this game. And you got him playing with good players. He's on that second line with the captain, Braden Shen, and Jake Neighbors. So, there's some good value there with Zach Bolduc here in this game. And then as far as Edmonton goes, everyone's making a big deal of this goalless drought for this goal-scoring drought for Connor McDavid. Kind of feels like maybe tonight he finally scores one, but, obviously you're going to pay plus 100 even money. He's with Hyman and Draisaitl. It looks like Chris Knobloch is going back to the old recipe, putting McDavid and Draisaitl to get Zach Hyman on the right wing side, loading up that top line. We'll see if it pays off. Janmark is playing with Nugent Hopkins and Kane, so Janmark's moving up a bit. It's probably a little value, too, for Janmark tonight in this game, considering his spot in the lineup. And look, Janmark's got 3 goals in the last 5 games, too, for the Edmonton Oilers. So not only do you have him in a little bit of a surge offensively, goal-scoring-wise, 3 in the last 5 games for Janmark as far as scoring goals, but now he's on the second line, and you can get up to plus 560 for him to score a goal tonight. So definitely Janmark, I think, worth a look. Fogle and Perry with McLeod on the third line. These are players we've mentioned before for props. Fogle more so when he was on the top line. McLeod's actually been kind of quiet lately for the Oilers. If you look at his recent numbers, he hasn't scored a goal in actually quite some time. We're talking January 20th at Calgary, the last time he found the back of the net. So hard to get to the window with McLeod with his funk right now. Corey Perry, he's now down the third line, but you still look at the key stats like shots on goal and expected goals for specific players, and he's generating chances still, even though now he's gone 3 games without a goal, hasn't scored since the Boston game last week. But Corey Perry is always worth a shot, in my opinion, because he's generating chances. He's going to get to the goal crease, the blue paint, the tough areas to score goals, and you're talking plus 400, at some places for him to score. So definitely value with Corey Perry. Just a question of whether he cashes in with that value. Great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat at the like button. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, make sure you sign up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Again, we've got our daily sides, totals, and player props posted on the page each and every day. Goalie charts, totals charts, exclusive live betcasts. We're going to have at least 1, if not 2, Patreon exclusive live betcasts in the month of March. We're looking forward to those. So make sure you check it out. All kinds of great content. We're going to be recording the Q&A video very soon, probably next week sometime as well. Great questions too. We've definitely taken notice of the great questions that our Patreon members have posted. So we'll be recording the Q&A video probably next week before the tournament starts, and we'll get that out there for the Patreon members. So looking forward to that. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. And again, your $10 per month subscription goes a long way to keeping us going for a long time to come. So again, sign up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And make sure you check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Get your gear, get your merch.
Yeah, we got everything in stock, and you get 20% off. You got 2 days left to save 20% on your entire order, and that's over at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Everything in stock, all the caps, all the hoodies, all the T-shirts, all the regular logo stuff, the draw season, Highlanders, everything's there. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
There we go. Check it out. All right. Next up, we'll be back in a moment. Bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up right after we hear from our great daily sponsors of the Ice Guys show, Boston. All right, Boston Hemp Inc. Make sure you check them out. And again, 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code Ice Guys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night. And you know what I love about the segment lately? We're picking each other up nightly on this segment. Sometimes mine hits, sometimes Alex's hits. But a lot of times the last few days, one of us has cashed our bargain bin special of the night. Two of them, of course, on Monday, it was Alex and Brett Skalski had their bargain bin cash in. Last night, mine did with Bertuzzi. So we're looking forward to seeing if we can get one, if not both, tonight in the bargain bin, home in the winner's circle. Alex, where are you going from the bargain bin tonight?
Yeah, let's go with that national TV game. You got the Blues taking on the Oilers, and you mentioned about Connor McDavid. This could be possibly the longest he's ever gone without scoring a goal, and everybody's all up in arms about it. I think he changes that tonight with not one, but 2 goals. You can give me that at plus 600 over at FanDuel. So that's Connor McDavid, number 97, to get 2 goals tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. TV spot. Everybody's going to be talking about it. That's all that they're going to be talking about in the pregame for TNT for the first 20 minutes is that Connor McDavid hasn't done anything. So hopefully he can shut all of them up and get 2 tonight. Plus 600, that's my bargain bin special for the season.
One thing I respect about Connor McDavid is he knows how to handle the media. I love when he responded to the question about the goal drought. Says, "Yeah, I'm just decided I'm going to get all assists now."
Yeah,
that's where
right.
the focus is.
Yeah. I love that too.
Stop scoring. Don't need to score. I'm just worried about getting assists right now. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, he knows how to handle the questions, and those are just ridiculous questions. It's not like he's not trying to score. It's just sometimes that's what can happen. And I like it. I think if you're going to bet Connor McDavid, and I do feel he's going to get off the schneid tonight. I really do. Bet him to score 2. Don't just, go with the minus 110 plus 100 because I find he does score in bunches when he does score. He's one of those Austin Matthews, got those kind of characteristics where when he scores 1 in a game, there's always a great threat and a great chance for him to score 2. So again, plus 600 for Connor McDavid, 2 goals tonight for Alex B. Smith with his bargain bin special of the night. My bargain bin special of the night, look, it's only 2 games. There's not a lot to choose from, but I'm going to put my faith in Kaapo Kakko tonight for the New York Rangers. It was either going to be him or it was going to be Matthias Janmark, who I also think is a very good candidate as far as a bargain bin special is concerned tonight. But I'm going to, and Bolduc even, I considered as well for St. Louis. Voronkov plus 370 was a good price. He was on the short list as well for bargain bin. But I'm going to go with the Rangers and Kakko because I think the Rangers will bring it tonight. They'll be better than they were against Columbus. Short-term revenge spot. One thing about Kakko, as Cuban said, most of his goals have been scored at home at Madison Square Garden this season. So he's playing with Kreider and Zibanejad. Let's see if he can finally cash in playing with 2 of the best players on the team. He is going to be on the power play tonight as well. Get those minutes for the Rangers. Kaapo Kakko, New York Rangers, plus 370 at FanDuel for my bargain bin special of the night for this Wednesday slate. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like for best bet tonight?
Yeah, we'll go with that game at Madison Square Garden, Columbus, New York. I expect goals early here in this contest, and then we're getting a decent price. Minus $1.40 for that first period over 1.5. Like I said, we've seen this cash in 9 of the last 10 meetings between these two teams. Columbus has given the Rangers fit, so maybe they could do that early, or maybe the Rangers can push back. Either way, we just need 2 goals here in the first 20 minutes. So Blue Jackets, Rangers, first period over is my best bet this Wednesday.
All right, Columbus, New York Rangers over 1.5 first period. Best bet for Alex P. Smith. My best bet, let's go with that St. Louis Edmonton over 6.5 minus 110 I was debating that or the first period in that game, but we'll go full game because of the fact the second period and third period trends are strong with Edmonton. So full game over 6.5, -110. St. Louis, Edmonton. My best bet for this Wednesday card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. Reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we're back tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the Ice Guys.